It's my pleasure to present the recently published paper in Journal of Biomedical Informatics, PheValuator 2.0, Methodological Improvements for the PheValuator Approach to Semi-Automatic Phenotype Algorithm Evaluation. So in the background, PheValuator 1.1 was introduced in 2019. And it was a tool that we developed to be able to determine the performance characteristics of phenotype algorithms, things like sensitivity, specificity, positive and negative predictive value. One of the things that we found in that first paper suggested that PheValuator 1.0, the edition, underestimated the positive predictive value of algorithms. So we sought to improve the method. So our objectives for this study were to do two things. One was to create a comparative benchmark using prior validation studies. And second, to test the improvements in PheValuator 2.0 against that benchmark. So our methods, we talked about the changes to PheValuator. And one of the changes that we did was to change the definitions of the XSpec and the XSense algorithm. And those are used to define the cases and the non-cases for the diagnostic predictive model. What these changes did allowed us to potentially use the phenotype diagnosis codes, the health condition codes, in the predictive model itself, because they're important predictors. The other thing we added was that we're now allowed multiple time windows to add a dimension of temporality to the model. Previously, it was over the full course of the person's observation period. We also developed a phenotype benchmark. We looked at about 825 validation studies, and we found 35 studies that provided validation statistics for 17 different phenotypes. We added in 2 more phenotypes for MI and stroke from our first paper for further comparison. So our final comparison was going to be for 19 phenotypes and 90 algorithms. This is a little small here, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what the different algorithms and phenotypes that we're looking at. So we looked at 5 different therapeutic areas: cardiovascular, immunology, infectious disease, neurology, and oncology. One of the things that you notice is that all of the studies provided outcomes, results for positive predictive value, but you see very sparse data for sensitivity and specificity. And this is one of the downsides of traditional validation methods, is that it's very difficult and very time-consuming and expensive to do sensitivity and specificity measurements. These are the results from comparing for PheValuator 1.0 versus 2.0 for myocardial infarction, which was what we compared in the first paper for 3 different studies. And what we found was that in PheValuator 1.0, we found that the median difference between what PheValuator estimated and what the papers estimated was about a 31% difference between the algorithm and PheValuator 1.0. With PheValuator 2.0, we reduced this to about a 1% difference. Here are all the results that we saw for all the different therapeutic areas and all the different phenotypes that we did. The thing I wanted to emphasize was that for positive predictive value, we saw a nice improvement with PheValuator 2.0, with the median of about 4% difference in the for positive predictive value, and similar results from 1.0 and 2.0 for specificity, but also very close to what the median was in our results. So in conclusion then, we found that PheValuator 2.0 provides better agreement with positive predictive value than the previous version of PheValuator, using a comparison to chart review validation studies. And that PheValuator 2.0 produces estimates that are less than 5% different than the estimates from prior studies for positive predictive value and for specificity. We feel that considering the low cost and the effort for PheValuator, it should be considered when algorithm validation is needed for studies. And when using PheValuator, this would also allow for quantitative bias analysis, which will help to improve the reliability and reproducibility of research studies using observational data. Oh, and now PheValuator, as of this week, is now in Hades. It's part of the Hades tool package. And that was it. Thank you.